What is up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols, sponsored by Roughneck Scarves. I'm Mike. With me is Kevin Josh. The Hounds took another 3 points from New York, and the league is talking about going European, and we're going to break it all down. But first,
Another victory.
The victory beverage from the Victory Brewery. Is that correct?
Yeah, Victory Brewery. I forget where they're located, but they're not far away.
Have we been like explicit that the Victory beverage is typically alcoholic, or have we intentionally tried to stay away from that? I can't remember.
Before we were video, I never said what I was drinking because I figured, they can't see me. I'm not going to say it's alcohol. But now we're on video, so it's kind of hard to like pretend like it's not. Although, truth be told, there was many times during the audio only sessions where it was just like a freaking pop or LaCroix. Be like, I just got a LaCroix. No one will know. It's fine.
Not anymore, man. This is a prime opportunity for listeners. If you have recommendations or drinks that you'd like to see Josh partake in on the show,
a new segment. That's fun.
Let us know. Yeah, that could be a new segment. Like somebody submit a new drink. And
we need a jingle for that. We need to come up with like Josh's new drink or something. Like I don't know. Like,
there it is. There's our jingle.
Yeah, Victory beverage. Mail-in. There we go. I like that idea better.
Yeah. So you can either join us live and submit what drink you think Josh should drink in the chat, or hit us up on Twitter or Facebook and let us know, and we'll give you credit for it on the show, assuming Josh actually drinks it. But yeah, let us know. You said that's Victory. What's it called?
It is a Easy Ringer Session IPA Victory Brewery.
Awesome. Kev, what's going on in Tennessee?
What is going on in Tennessee? I don't know what's going on in Tennessee, but I ate just loads of pasta last weekend. I watched Luca, and it got me in the mood. And
good movie.
Great movie. I really enjoyed it. Pixar does it again. Yeah, I don't know. Just a lot of pasta, a lot of just running and heat index of 98 in Tennessee and just doing the thing.
For some reason, I thought of everybody on Mongols, but the USL released a competition. I guess August is Supporters Month, and you could submit a video of yourself of why you think that you deserve to be the supporter of the week. And I'm like, here we have Josh, who's president of the Steel Army. We have Kev, who's in Tennessee supporting a USL team in Pittsburgh and talking about it once a week. So, like, you guys should make videos and compete against each other to be supporter of the week. That'd be awesome.
You kind of just dropped the ball there because you literally started a whole network of podcasts. Supporting the whole USL.
That's not a thing.
Pretty much. Whatever. That's it.
It's fine. Moving on.
Network. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So, guys, the Hounds won 3-1 against Red Bulls. Taking it to them again. We got goals from Dixon, Cicerone, and Dequa. Typically our front three, but we're going to talk about this for a second. Kenny, his starting position was actually much further up the field. He got himself 2 assists, bringing his total 29 as a Hound, passing our buddy Kevin Kerr to make Kenny the all-time River Hounds assist leader. So round of applause to King Kenny for that, for sure. That's awesome.
That's
Congrats,
really cool.
Man.
Yeah.
Well deserved. Guys, give us some takeaways from this game. Josh, what'd you think?
This was fun. It was fun to actually like have multiple goals, to not feel like you're at the seat of your pants the whole match where you're like, oh no. It's like, no, we got 3 goals up, and I'm like, wow, I can breathe. This is fun. like I'm not worried about a late equalizer. Like, granted, like when they they did score after we scored the first one, but it was still like you got far enough ahead, 2 goals ahead, where it felt good.
Yeah, for sure. It never really felt in doubt. We seemed to be the team on the front foot. Kev, how did you feel?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the biggest talking point is that we won, and that we won 3-1, and how great that is to keep the momentum going and to get this kind of middle part of the season momentum going that we desperately needed after the start of the season. But the interesting thing that I was ready to talk about for this week's podcast was the weird switch up where we see the same 11 But yeah, Rivera's weird, and Dixon's playing as a wingback ish, and Kenny's a bit higher. So, to me, Lily mixed it up while keeping the same 11, and we still, we get the same fluidity. I think that's one of the biggest things for me is even in somewhat altered positions, Rivera probably the most. Players still know where each other's at, and there's really good patterns of play and connections and link up, and the fluidity just keeps going. And so, yeah, I mean, created loads of chances. We created more than them. I think Red Bulls played us well, but I mean, we deserve to win 3-1. All said and done.
I feel like Danny Rivera is like if Danny Earls and Ryan James had a kid. Like that's kind of like he sort of plays that style. He has a little bit of a bite to him. But I thought it was really interesting because, Kev, like you said, you see the lineup and you're like, okay, it's the same lineup. But we were kind of playing a 2 holding midfielder setup. And part of me thinks, we've talked to Lily a lot during the season, and he keeps saying, did I say Lily? We talked to Lily a lot. He keeps saying he wants to get Kenny higher and higher up the pitch. And I wonder if this was just Lily saying, you can't be back there because there's literally 2 other people playing that position right now. So like get forward and make stuff happen. I like the idea of having Rovey and Griffin sort of playing side by side. I think, you kind of have the one that is a bit of a destroyer in Rovey, which you gotta watch.
I think Griffin's a bit of a destroyer.
Well, listen, they certainly both are, but it feels like the past few games Rovey's picked up a yellow, so we're probably only a few games away from him picking up yellow card accumulation and having to sit out. But I liked what I saw. We'll see if it continues.
I mean, there was things not to be too happy about with this game. Like I remember the first half, pretty much the last half of the first half, us not being able to connect passes worth crap. It kept on still our possession was not great. Link ups was not fantastic. Every time we got the ball, we just gave it away right away. And it was just annoying. The second half though, definitely felt a lot better. So it wasn't, all roses, but it was definitely a lot better and felt great by the end of the second half, obviously.
Well, I think the Red Bulls goal comes off of Wharton. So ETLO gathers it, tries to start a quick counter and throws it out to Wharton. And Wharton just, gives it away in our half, and they turn. And to give the Red Bulls player credit, I forget who scored, but it was a good goal. I mean, VTL comes out, closes space, he knocks it around him, and from a tight angle, he doesn't have a lot of space to put it in, and the Red Bulls player puts it in. So yeah, no, I get what you mean. There was a moment where I don't know what it was, if we were just trying to push it too quickly, trying to move things too quickly, and we kind of blew ourselves out in the first 15, 20 minutes or something, and legs kind of went. But yeah, I do remember that being a thing in the second part of the first half.
Yeah. You mentioned Alex Dixon sort of playing out of position. I feel like he can play anywhere and basically be considered out of position because he's just all over the place, but he still finds a way to get a goal against Red Bulls and 1 assist. Really, I want to count it as 2. I know it doesn't count as 2 because he started the play that led to Cicerone's goal. He sort of played it into Dikwa, who knocked it to Forbes, who crossed it to Cicerone for the goal. But
that was a great goal. I mean, all the goals were really good, but the second one in particular, the third one felt very. I mean, I don't know what else to say, so I'm going to say it, but it felt very Man City-ish in the sense of you just you get to the byline, cut it back, and you have someone crash in the net, and you just tap it in. That's a very efficient, effective, well planned out thing where you just get a guy driving to the byline, you commit a defender, he cuts it back into the 18, someone crashes, and they knock it in. And so it was very efficient in that way. And it's not something, I don't know, it's not something I see the River Hounds score. They don't score goals like that usually. And it's not one person taking on 3 players and shooting from 30 yards. That's a planned kind of pattern of play that can happen kind of over and over again. Whereas the second goal, it was like jazz, man. It was just like it was just like improvised, like just it was a great. I mean, and yeah, Dixon setting it up first, and Cicerone's touch to kind of let it go across his body, and then get the perfect weight of a touch, and then go around the keeper. Yeah, no, I mean, and I think even for the first goal, Cicerone does great track back work and wins the ball back in like around our 18, and then starts to play off. So no, I mean, like huge credit. I think arguably our best performing players right now are our front three, with Cicerone, Dikwa, and Dixon. Dixon was incredible again in this game, and I think him and Cicerone in particular are having really good seasons. Are catching fire right now.
Would have been cooler if we had a bicycle kick in there somewhere.
Okay. I think the scary part is that I don't think we've seen the peak of any of these guys yet. Like, I still tend to feel that Dixon's contributing, but I'm not sure that if out wide is still his best position. I think Dikwa could get more service and get more done. And it still feels like there are times where Cicerone is expecting more of himself. So, like, if there is a point where these guys, all catch fire at the same time and push beyond where they're at now, like, that's going to be pretty scary. And, hopefully it's against a team like Tampa or Hartford or, somebody that we can knock some points away from.
I don't know. I think for me, I don't, this is going to sound, I don't mean it to sound degrading at all.
This is like the third or fourth time where you're like, I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. Go ahead. Yeah,
I don't mean to sound it, but like, I think this is their peak, and it's great. Like, I think they're playing extremely well. Let's not forget, this is another game where, yeah, we get 3 goals, but all of our 3 goals for me are coming from our 3 attackers. Like, these aren't midfield goals.
Well, hold on. What do you mean by for me? Like,
well, because like Dixon's a wingback in this game, so like you can't say he's a forward. Like, so that's my point. Yeah. So, and Cicerone, I mean, he's not a wingback, but yeah, Dikwa is the out and out forward in this game, right. And so, but historically and classically, Dixon and Cicerone are our forwards. But that's another game. Yeah, Kenny's getting assists. I don't want to harp on him too much. He I think gets a few shots off where he could score.
Mm-hmm. He had like 2 really good chances that he could have put away.
And he didn't. I love Kenny, and I think he had a good game again.
Let's welcome our new guest, Kenny.
I think he had a good game again. But yeah, it's no goals from Griffin, no from Rivera. Once again, we're not scoring enough. We're not scoring enough at any corners. Like, our big center backs aren't getting goals. This, like, we can't keep relying on Cicerone, Dikwa, and Dixon to score every game. And I think
we can though. Like, I don't understand what you're saying, because like it's not like we're getting all of our goals from one person. Like, in the past, we've had the issue where it's like, hey, it's really easy to shut us down because all you gotta do is cover one player, and then we're screwed. And that's not the case when we're scoring from 3 different people in one game. Like, who cares if it's only coming from the forwards if there's multiple of them? Like, it's only an issue if it's all coming from one guy.
I agree, but I'm just all 3 of them aren't going to score every game, right? So, like,
says you.
I feel like, especially, like, I don't know, historically, if you're Nico was probably a 1 and 2 at best goal scorer. If you're a 1 and 3 goal scorer when you're having 3-4, that's pretty good. And that means, like, if you like statistically average everything out, you're getting 1 goal a game from each of them. So, like, that's what I mean. Sure, the stars aligned in this game, and we knock in 3 goals. And I'm not saying we only created 3 chances and we scored 3 goals. We created a lot of chances. But the point being is I want to see more numbers and more goals from other people.
I don't disagree, but I also feel like you're splitting hairs a bit. I mean, in the past few games, we've gotten goals from Williamson. We've got Todd Wharton contributing. It's not that it's just coming from these guys. Would I like to see more set-piece goals or more corner kick goals? Yeah. I mean, that's something that it seems like we're lacking in every single year. But I also don't know what USL teams are overly proficient on set pieces. And you might have some guys that can take set pieces, but when it comes to like corner kicks and stuff, you don't have like a set piece specialist for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like looking at our stats here, we have the most goals coming from Cicerone. Like he has 7 goals. And then after that, we have Williamson with 2. Actually, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So Williamson, Diqua, Velarde, Griffin, and Dixon. They all have 2 goals each. And then after that, we have Perez and Wharton, 1 goal each. So, I mean, pretty evenly distributed as far as like after you get past Cicerone. Not too bad.
I mean, that's surprising though. Like that feels like that almost makes Kevin's point where I'm like,
it makes the point that we're getting most of our goals from one person, which is what I don't want to see. But
right.
I mean, that's a lot of goals from the other players shared between them all.
Right. That's fair.
Well, I think the distribution of it, a lot of those, the Velarde, the Wharton, okay, not Williamson, but a lot of those other goals come earlier in the season. In the past few games, it's only been the front 3, and so I guess maybe that's what's on my mind when we're in our streak and we're winning games and we're scoring goals. It's kind of whittled down to our front 3, which is worse. And that's the thing. I mean, like we're not. I could be splitting hairs here again, but we're not. I would say we're playing 3 center backs, right? We're not playing 2 center backs. So there's just like an extra tall guy for corners, right? I mean, Kilwine and Veet and Robinson, they should be getting on the end of some corners, right? I mean, like they're big guys, are good in the air, and so yeah, I don't know. Griffin, I think Griffin has the talent, but I don't think that's his role. I have some thoughts on Griffin as well. We can talk about later, but no.
Well, listen, we've got a lot to talk about in this show, so I was going to move past this game relatively quickly. So if you want to share your thoughts on Griffin, then we'll sort of jump to.
I think Griffin. My only slight. I think he's a great player. I think he's having a good season. I really don't have too much negative to say about him. The only thing that kind of popped up in my mind while watching this game is he's going to ground a little too much, and I like the general adage is like if you have to slide in, then you're out of position, kind of thing. And it feels like just too often he's relying on lunging in and winning the ball. And I mean, to be fair to him, 8 out of 10 times he's winning the ball. But that also leaves him exposed where when you don't miss, well, then you're on the ground and they're countering pretty quickly. Or if you miss, then you're, more likely to get a yellow card than not. I mean, he gets a yellow card in this game. So that's not to say I don't want my midfielders to be combative and, chippy and aggressive. I do. But yeah, that was just one thing that kind of came to me. I was like, he's going around a lot. And I don't know.
I don't disagree. And I fully agree with like when you go to ground, it's typically because you're out of position. But I also wonder how much of that was, he was basically playing with a new defensive midfielder pairing with Roby, and he's used to Kenny being back there next to him. So he might have had to cover extra ground because Roby's figuring out the position. I know you're Steve made the point, and I was going to make this point as well, but I'll throw it up. He said, I felt we haven't needed to find goals elsewhere because the forwards are scoring. So like you want your forwards to score, they're scoring. And it's if we lose this game 1-0, I think we're like, well, why aren't our forwards scoring? Like, what's the problem there? So
it's also nice to see that our assists are pretty well distributed out there because like we have 4 assists from Forbes, Dixon has 4, Diqua has 3, Cicerone has 2 assists, and then 1 by like Williamson, Roviera, and Velarde. So I don't know. I feel like there's not one piece of the puzzle where you just shut down that one player and we're screwed. And that's what I like to see. So that's my only worry is if that becomes the case. And Cicerone is our best forward and he is our biggest goal scorer, but we still have more going for us than just Cicerone this year.
Agreed.
My last point on the whole goal scoring thing is, I mean, Josh, you read out the numbers before. For how much Dixon and Diqua have played this season, we're 15 games in and both of them have 2 goals. It's not a great return. If you're in the forward line and expecting a goal, it's not a great return. When like I'm looking at the standings now, and Hartford, who have played 3 games less than us, have scored 4 more goals than we have. And in seasons gone by where we're unquestionably the best defensive team in the league, it's not the case this season. We don't have the least goals against even in our division, let alone the Eastern Conference or the entire league. So yeah, in a season, and by the way, I'm not trying to say like this is probably my favorite incarnation of the Riverhounds that I've watched in the past few seasons. I think they're incredibly fun to watch. They're creating a lot of chances. I wouldn't trade this in. I'm just trying to like contextualize, not fears, but I don't know. I have to talk about something, right? It's a podcast, and so I'm just trying to contextualize it. Where in a season where, defensively we're not as strong, and we're not scoring as many goals as the people around us at the moment.
Yeah, but we are seeing Dixon and Dequa assists makers as well. Like, Dixon has 4 assists, tied with Forbes this year. So, like, even though he's not scoring as much as Cicerone, he is still contributing to our attack in a meaningful, positive way. So, it's hard to be too hard on Dixon or Dequa when they both have between them 7 assists. So it's not too shabby.
Yeah. And especially, the time to be critical against them maybe was earlier in the season.
Sure.
Now, like they're getting assists and they're scoring goals and they're playing really well. So it feels weird to criticize them now. I kind of am and I'm kind of not, but yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. I just kind of stop.
I think to wrap it up, JF makes a good point here. This argument is like being upset that Shaq didn't shoot enough threes. Like, yeah, that's kind of how it is. Hey, look,
too many layups. I'm upset with those layups.
Yeah. Looking at the standings, there was a brief moment after this game where we were in first place in the group of death, we'll call it. So again, we've got some games that we've played. There's teams like Hartford that are 3 games. They have 3 games in hand on us. But guys, we're tied for first and we've only played 1 more game against Tampa. So yeah, they got a game in hand on us, but we're going to have to play them again. So like we could square that up. Not too shabby. The teams to keep an eye out on. I mean, obviously Charleston has a chance to leapfrog us. Really everybody 5 up has a chance to leapfrog us at this point. And Charlotte's not far off. So like, really, there's 6 teams that are really fighting for 4 spots here. This is not a gimme.
You mean Hartford or Charlotte?
Charlotte is played. They played 2 less games than us, and they're 11 points back. So like we lose some games, they win some games, and we're in there. The Battery.
I'm worried about Hartford. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Hartford. Like Hartford has only 12 games played, and they're right behind us. So like they could easily be in first place.
Correct.
And they score boatloads of goals.
Yeah.
Right. Which is a nice segue into, guys, this Saturday, Hartford comes to town. Last time we played them, we drew 1-1. I believe this was the game where Kenny got the crazy red card thing.
That was not a red.
Yeah. Hartford has been on a bit of a wave the past 4 games. So they drew 2-2 with Red Bull. They then beat Tampa 4-1. Then they lost 3-1 to the Battery. And now they just beat Miami 2-0. So, so this game, I feel like this game is going to be huge. Last week, talking about the Red Bull game, the Hartford game, and then next week we play the Battery, we did our whole over-under thing. And I think we set the over-under at 4.5 points. Well, we got 3 from Red Bull. How confident are you guys that we're going to get 2 points against Hartford and the Battery in these next 2 games? How are you feeling, Josh?
I'm feeling pretty good about that. Like, I feel like if you're putting both these games together, I feel like we can definitely get a win from one of these games and get 3 points. I'm worried about Hartford, but I also don't feel like Hartford is like necessarily on like a winning streak right now. They're just so many games in hand that they have a lot of ground a lot of opportunities to make up the ground. I feel like we can beat Hartford at home, which will be nice. But yeah, I feel like pretty confident in us getting at least 2 points out of the next 2 games.
Kev, do you agree?
Yes. But I could see, for how good Hartford seemed this season. And out of memory, I mean, the red card really paints that initial game we played them earlier in the season. I don't remember them playing us that well.
They didn't.
Yeah, and so, but I think this for me lines up to be a game where it's one of those where it's like it's a pretty even game, and the way soccer is, just someone, a weird bounce happens, that the ball goes in, a bad call or whatever could determine things, and when we don't necessarily deserve it, we could be walking away with a loss. And so, I mean, that it feels like it's going to be one of those games, not necessarily where we get bad luck or we get a bad bounce and we lose, but it's just, I think that's more on the cards than like Red Bulls or something. And so it's not out of the question that something weird happens. We lose to Hartford and then we just have a tough game the following week. So no, I think 2 points is more likely than 1. But no, the Hartford game is going to be really, really interesting. And I think that the best thing we have going for us right now is not only are we getting results, I think we're playing extremely well. So that gives me all the confidence in the world. And like we don't. Am I right in saying we don't have like midweek games? Yeah,
not this week. Yeah,
yeah, we're playing them on Saturday, and so I don't think there'd be any reason why we would be doing any kind of rotation. So that's even more encouraging.
Yeah, I mean, I have the feeling that this game on Saturday is probably going to be one of the most entertaining games so far this season. I could be wrong.
And I'm missing it. I'm missing this game. This sucks.
That's why it's going to be the most entertaining game this
exactly.
season, Josh, is because you're not going to be there. Yeah. No, it will be very interesting. I tend to agree. I think I still am taking the over. I think even if we were to lose against Hartford, which I always feel like the three of us have these crazy swings where we'll either come in super overconfident, where we just assume we're going to win because it's like, why wouldn't we win? And then we come up against a team that's like half decent and we're like, I don't know, guys, we're going to lose point. Like we don't have this like happy medium of being realistic. Regardless of what happens at Hartford, I think we got a good chance to pick up 3 against the Battery, which again, like, another really good team. This is not Loudon that we're playing, but
or Red Bulls.
Or Red Bulls.
Red Bulls is more appropriate. I will say, I mean, like a bit of the narrative in the past 5 minutes, as we talked about this game and the previous game, is this is really important. Everything's really tight. Teams could leapfrog us. Yes, and we're in the middle part of the season. I think that's all true, but I mean there is still 17 games left. So it's not the end of the world if a bit of momentum now leaks out and we slow up a bit. I mean, we don't want that to do that, and history says right now we wouldn't. But there is still, for as fast as the season moves, and I think especially last year in my head, I'm thinking just how quickly the season moves. 17 games is still a good long time that I get to enjoy watching the Riverhounds.
And look, last year we had the problem where we peaked a little too early. So, maybe dropping some points here and there isn't a terrible thing.
But
Josh is like, Josh doesn't like that idea.
No. We're winning all the rest of this games this season.
Yeah.
We're fine.
That's what we need to do.
Good. All right. Well, that's what's going on with the Hounds. Guys, there was some other massive news that came out this week and really got to dig into all of this. So essentially what happened was the USL had their mid-season meetings. I'm doing that in air quotes. And Jeff Reuter of The Athletic was there. And there were a bunch of new proposals and items that were discussed. This was the news all over the internet. Basically, ripping a quote straight from the piece. According to one source, USL President Jake Edwards spoke of this being a potentially seismic moment for the league to boldly establish an identity separate from MLS. He set a target of 2026 when the Men's World Cup will be hosted by the United States, Canada, and Mexico for a new format to be fully established. And then basically went on to propose a number of different things, some of which we've heard of before, some of which we have never heard of before. One of the most exciting, I shouldn't say one of the most exciting things, one of the coolest things is that apparently the USL is in conversation with Konami and EA Sports so that potentially we could see the the USL in FIFA or whatever Konami's game is, which would be nuts. We'll see what the odds are of that happening. But guys, the first one, and I want to kind of like talk through each one of these, get your thoughts, and then we can break down the odds of this happening. We used to have like a ranking system where it was like, I give that like 4 out of 5 Dave Brandts, or I don't know. We'll have to just like come up with something random that we can add our scale to each one of these. First one is something that I think we've all sort of heard for years. Our buddy Phil Grooms has been interviewing Jake Edwards for the past few years. Promotion relegation keeps coming up over and over and over again. And in this case, he brought it up again. And it sounds like the goal is that Jake Edwards is going to talk to each team in the hopes of putting it to a vote during this year's winter meeting in December. So like this is going beyond just like, this would be really cool to do, to like, we're going to vote on this thing happening. And we're not saying it's going to happen next year. Like it could still be something that they're aiming for 2026. But they're going to put this thing to a vote. Josh, what are your thoughts on Pro Rel in the USL?
I think it's a fantastic way to differentiate yourself from MLS. I do think that it has to be a little bit farther out. Like it can't be next year. It has to be like 2026 because USL League One is not up to snuff to USL Championship. I don't think it is at all. So right now you're just going to have a yo-yo situation where you're going to go up, you're going to go down. It's going to be the same teams flip-flopping. And then when those championship teams, especially because keep in mind, we're talking about this after the MLS teams leave. So It's not like we're talking like, you're going to have Loudoun down there at the bottom and they could possibly be okay in League One. Like we're getting rid of the dead weight essentially when it comes to teams that kind of always feed the bottom.
Look, I mean, you look at our table and really it's what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The top 6 are all independent clubs. The bottom 2 are MLS2 teams.
And
so
and if you go to like, let's say Central Division, Sporting Kansas City is in last place. Real Monarchs is last place in Mountain Division. Oakland Roots, they're an independent team. They're last place in the Pacific, but I think they only have like one USL team or MLS team, LA Galaxy 2. Oh wait, I think Tacoma is also, but they're near the bottom. But anyway, my point is that you're not going to have these teams that are kind of always near the bottom who are going to be okay, not dominate too much in League One. So League One's going to have to get better. It's going to have to get fuller because we're going to be losing teams once MLS goes away. So we're going to need new teams teams to be competing to a point where they could possibly survive in championship. And then even if you get all that figured out, as far as quality on the field goes, you still have the issue of Soccer Federation is still going to have the requirements for what teams can and can't have in their team, like their roster, their stadium size, their front office in League One versus League Two. I mean, in Division 2 and 3. So that's going to be an issue as well.
Yeah, for me, I think that's the biggest thing is if you transition from League One to the championship, that's going D3 to D2. And there's, like you said, there's that whole other set of requirements of stadium size, front office staff. So even if you're good enough to win in League One and move up to the championship, you need to be bringing in enough money. You need to have a primary investor that's worth X amount of dollars, which that is different between the championship and League One. All of those things would have to happen in like the off season. And then, you're hitting the ground running in the championship.
Wait, explain to me why that's the case.
Because the way that the U.S. Soccer Federation has set up our divisions, there is clear rules that if you want to participate in the second division, which is the USL Championship, you need to have a stadium with at least 5,000 seating capacity. Whereas if you're in D3, that number is much less. And so if you're going to transition from D3 to D2, you now have to upgrade your stadium. You have to have all of these other things in place. So,
and MC, if you saw it in the chat, he brought up a good point about in Premier League, EPL. you have like a 3-year grace period to kind of make some things work out. The problem with that is I got a feeling what we're going to see clubs who don't want to even do it. Like you're going to have someone in League 2 or League 1, I'm sorry, in League 1 who gets promoted, who could get promoted. And they're like, wait, we're going to have to make how much investment? We're going to have to do what? No, we're good. We're going to stay in League 2 or League 1. So I could definitely see that happening because that's a lot of investment. And I don't know if fans who are going to championship games or League 1 games, if the majority of the people going care if they're up a league. Like we're going to have to sell that to the casual fans, because if it's just academy kids and their parents watching the game, do they really care if they're in League 1 versus championship? Is there enough prestige to get promoted where you're going to be able to get more people in the stadium?
It's like, is there enough commitment from the community? I mean, it's sort of ingrained in England and in the European model that you just support your local club and that's what it is. And so whether you're in, in our case, League 1 or League 2 or the championship, you just support your club. And that's not always the case here. I mean, there are a lot of fans in League 1, but are there enough that it's like, oh, they moved up a league, that like the casual fan is even going to know what that means? If you're not like somebody who watches European soccer.
Marketing. It has to be marketing. Like we're going to need the USL as a league itself, like as a
front office,
front office for both leagues to be able to promote why this is a big deal, to get fans interested in it, and just to get them used to the idea of it. Because I do think it's interesting. I feel like people will eat it up. Like even if you're, bottom of the league in championship, like now you have a reason to go to games because you're like, oh man, they're trying to not go under. And like we know how exciting that is because of following European soccer and all their leagues. But American fans who don't do that, they don't know that. And like they've never experienced that. So that's a very cool possibility. And it could be fun. But it's just, I do question if financial incentives are there. Because not even like, League 1 versus championship have great financial differences as far as like TV deals and stuff like that. So it's not like you're now getting a bigger cut of a bigger pie if you go up to championship. I just don't know if it's a big enough difference for the front offices to actually care.
Yeah. I mean, part of me wonders if, hopefully the video game deals and this has the potential to bring in more ad revenue from TV and stuff. Kev, what were you going to say?
Oh, no, a few things. Quickly. One, I guess the Konami game is Pro Evolution Soccer. Oh, yeah. Which I think is bigger in Europe. Maybe not. I don't know. I was always a FIFA and Football Manager person. Other side note, Knoxville is going to have a League 2 team in the future.
Does that mean you're no longer on the show? Are you jumping ship? Is that what
starting your Knoxville podcast?
Starting your Knoxville podcast? Okay, cool, great.
And three, I don't know. So from what you both eloquently discussed about the argument so far, to me, with not knowing and not being as deep in this as both of you are, it seems like maybe, you would kind of need to get the U.S. Soccer Federation on, like, cheering for something like this, because if there's something in place where there's a policy and a stipulation that says if you're in this division, you need this. Yeah, that doesn't sound like the easier route to me. Sounds just like change the policy. Like why do you don't need to do that? Policies can be changed to, support the initiative that you want to grow and build. So to me, the whole fine, even if you want to say, maybe you've done an economic analysis and an advertising analysis and says you need 5,000 stands, then in that case, if you're going to stand by that hard and fast, if you can get the U.S. Soccer Federation on your side, maybe you can divert more resources to clubs and say, look, you don't need a huge private investor for this. We'll back you on some levels to help for stadium upgrades or stadium resource allocation or whatever. And so it sounds like if the U.S. if the federation is going to cross their arms and say, go ahead and try, we're still going to have policies that don't make sense to support a pro-rel system between the level of clubs that we're at and the resources that these clubs have. I think it's going to be really hard. So yeah, I don't know. To me, it's just rather than trying to get low, what's the word? Like not, clubs that don't have a ton of financial backing, rather than trying to get them on side with obscure policies that don't make sense for them or for the league. It sounds easier to just try to change the policies, and for that you really need to have bring a really good case to the federation.
Yeah, the issue is right now, at least in the past, USSF has seemed very much more kind of in cahoots with MLS and keeping them happy. And that's why we have some of these requirements. And it's kind of like, okay, well, like, are they gonna bend to this? But I will say that it makes a lot of sense to get rid of these rules if you're promoting and relegating based off of merit. Because the whole reason why we have these rules right now, because there is no promotion or relegation upon merit. So the only way you can kind of make sure that people or the teams in League One or League Two or whatever are doing what they need to do and producing the quality of players you want to produce is if you have all these rules in place, since you can't do it based off merit. So now if we were to create a system based off merit, there's no reason for those rules to be there anymore.
Yeah. I mean, and I agree with everything that you guys have said. I think that the USSF's or the U.S. Soccer Federation's primary goal should be as many successful teams in as many markets as they possibly can, regardless of what league they're in. So right now, the USL is the one that's really making the push for that, with the support between the Championship, League One, and League Two, whereas MLS is sort of capped at where they are, and they're now going to have their own like D3 for these teams, but they're not going to get any support. So you're going to want a team in Knoxville to start up and get a big fan base and be successful and work its way up into the championship. And that creates more interest, and that's better for the country as a whole, which is who the U.S. Soccer Federation is supposed to be supporting.
If you believe in that argument, I agree. I mean, to me, that argument makes sense and is logical. If you can grow soccer markets in as many cities and towns as possible, then that grows the following and support for the sport in the country. You could take an opposite stance and say, there's like a quote in investing. It's like, why put money towards your fifth best idea? Why not just put money towards your first best idea? So if the U.S. Soccer Federation thinks their first best idea is growing the MLS to its absolute best and trying to have a league that competes globally, then why would they divert resources away from that? And why not just put back in the MLS? I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with this. I'm saying that's an argument.
Yeah. Well, that's a nice little segue into the second point that Jake Edwards sprung on everybody that apparently nobody really heard about before he brought this up. But he is proposing that we shift the USL calendar from spring to fall to fall to spring to be in line with the European schedule. So the idea, what some people were floating was this could put us more in line with the European transfer market, which never really thought of before. Like, I guess there is a struggle in terms for MLS of bringing European players over, because they always end up coming over mid-season MLS. So they're not having a preseason with the team. They're not getting used to the team. They're all that because they're coming over in the summer when the European season is over and MLS is already in the thick of it. So in theory, we could do this. There's the argument of, would you rather be sweltering at Highmark Stadium or freezing at Highmark Stadium? There are teams that are further north than us that are really going to be freezing and like shoveling off fields before games. But that really is going to differentiate things from MLS and pull us more in the English model. And say what you will about Alexi Lawless, I just remember his argument was if you're not happy with MLS, then make a better mousetrap. And the USL is trying to make a better mousetrap. So, like, the thought is,
what does this have to do with mousetraps?
it's a Lexi Laws thing.
Okay,
I know this one. Yeah,
but it's if you're not happy with the mousetrap that you have, then you make a better mousetrap. You don't sit and complain about the mousetrap that you have. So all the people who complain about, oh, U.S. soccer isn't on the European schedule and there's no promotion relegation, well, go do it. And if it turns out to be better, then you're going to end up better than MLS is. And so, is USSF or whatever I feel like I'm always missing it. Anyway, that if that comes along and they see the success of USL being on a European schedule and having promotion and relegation, I don't want to say his allegiance going to shift. I don't know, but I'm getting way off the question. Josh, how do you feel about a fall to spring schedule at Highmark Stadium?
I feel like even more so than Pro Rail, this could be an idea that would possibly really hurt or help teams. Like it's a situation where this could be worse off in the end because, okay, it's really cold.
You could just full stop right there. It's really cold.
If you're already in a league that depends on ticket sales and stadium participation to survive, and then you're saying, hey, not only, are we asking you to come to second division soccer, but also it's going to be freezing out
on Boxing Day, right?
It's going to be freezing out. And there's also college football still going on. So you can't watch your college ball anymore. You have the Steelers, but that doesn't really, I don't think the Steelers matter at all in this conversation because one, tickets cost so much more than Hounds tickets, and two, they usually play on Sunday. We usually play on Saturday. So I don't feel like that is the issue. Penguins, you're going to have the Penguins going to be more of a direct competition for the Hounds, which they already are for part of the season anyway. Right. So it is what it is. I'm more worried about college ball because I feel like a lot of people watch it on TV, and are you going to go out to the game instead of just watching college ball on TV? Are you going to be able to convince the rest of the family to come out? But more importantly, is just the cold factor, and it's a situation where I feel like some clubs are not going to be able to get ticket sales because of this.
Hey, global warming, baby. Just give us a few years. It's not going to be cold anymore.
2026, you're right. It won't be a problem. We're fine.
That's right. Our average temperature in the winter is going to be like 45 degrees. It'll be great.
I will say that we've been selling soccer scarves for a long time in Steel Army, and it'll be great to actually be able to wear them at the games.
You just wear them all like that episode of Friends where Joey put on all of Chandler's clothes. It'll just be, this whole thing. I'll just like drape it over me. Kev, you applauded this. Obviously you're in a bit of a different situation where it doesn't get terribly cold there. So
no, I applauded at the very beginning. Josh, you made really good points that I didn't consider. I think you're right. When so much of like the economics around a lot of these clubs depend on ticket sales, without running the numbers, you would think you would get more ticket sales when you have a game, for 4th of July and you can have fireworks, right? When it's just, when so much of the selling point at Highmark is, I can tell you how many, I don't hang out with a lot of people. I don't drive in Pittsburgh that much, but it feels like every time I drive back home from Pittsburgh and I go through the tunnels and I cross over the bridge and, I see Highmark on my way back to Penn Hills, whoever I'm in the car with, who doesn't like soccer, they're like, yeah, I'd hang out there for an evening and just have a drink and some nut, so there's something about, the nice weather.
You've whittled that down to one person.
I know.
That's what we're talking about. If I'm coming home with a friend and I drive past Highmark, they might be like, yeah, I'd hang out there.
Anyway. So no, both of those points are really good. The only reason why I applauded it is because, and the competition between other sports. The only reason why I applauded it is because, naturally, it feels right for soccer to start in the fall. And I don't know, I've always liked seeing the Pittsburgh team play with snow on the field, right? I grew up with that with the Steelers. I grew up with that was the advantage when teams came to Pittsburgh, they can't deal in the cold and we can because we live here and blah, blah, blah. And that was always kind of a thing. But
look, a couple of things that I'll add to that. One, I think that there is I don't disagree with anything that either of you just said.
Well, really quickly, there's that line that in England they'll use can you do it on a windy Wednesday night in Stoke or whatever? That could be the new thing for Pittsburgh, right? Can they do it on a cold, windy Saturday night in Pittsburgh? Anyway, sorry.
Does that have the potential to limit the players that we can get? Because given the option of playing in Miami or Pittsburgh in December, they're going to be in Miami. I think that there is something to people's annual rhythms. I think it's all been baked into us from the time that we were kids, that you get to the fall and there's a little bit more excitement because you're starting back to a new school year. It's this sense of like newness. And I think that kicking off a season in the fall, doing tailgating in the fall to start the season has the potential to ramp up in the same way that tailgating at football games in the fall does as well. There's this thing with tailgating in the fall that could be good. There could be the potential for the Hounds to make more money on concessions, selling things like hot chocolate, multiple hot chocolates during a game, hand warmers. You might splurge on some of the better seats that have heaters around them. So you might get less people, but you might get more revenue. This is all theoretical. I'm just making stuff up. But I think that it's interesting. I think that Pro Rel would likely happen before this switch to the European schedule. Just because I think there's going to be a lot of owners that are going to be like, nope, like unless you're giving us some money to make up for lost ticket sales, like this is going to be a tough one to swallow.
I will say though, I mean, when summer games get so hot where during league play you have to say, okay, we're taking
water
breaks
break
on that feels weird, right? Like, so I don't know. There could be a reason around that too, or a reasoning around that too.
Yeah.
All right, so that was the big news. Again, other than like floating it, there hasn't been anything about an actual vote in the same way that Pro Rel was talking about there being a vote. But it's something that Jake Edwards has put out there to the owners to start thinking about. Guys, what are the we didn't do odds of Pro Rel happening. What are the odds of this happening? Somebody, hold on, I need to scroll back up through the comments. Somebody said that our ranking system should be how many Lily cheeseburgers is that? So MC said on the first one he gives it 4 out of 5 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers, which
on Pro Rel?
I feel like it's a bit of a knock towards Lily, but like just saying the word Bob Lilly cheeseburger is kind of fun. So we're gonna go with that. So on Pro Rel he gave it 4 out of 5 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers. What do you guys give Pro Rel? How many Bob Lilly cheeseburgers out of 5?
I mean, personally, I think that's more likely to happen, and it's not just because I like the idea, but it's because Jake Edwards. Jake Edwards has pretty much been pushing this since he became president of USL, and it's been like his project this whole time. Like he wants this to happen, and he's been doing good with USL. So I feel like he's gonna get it done because that's what he wants this league to be.
Yeah. I give Pro Rel a 5 out of 5 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers. I think it happens. I don't think you create League One. I don't think you create League Two if that's not your intention. So I think
you don't call it the championship.
You don't call it the championship. Yeah, like it's gonna happen.
I'd say he gets through 2 and has a trouble finishing the third. I say 2.5.
No, we're actually. Is it Jake Edwards or is it Bob Lilly eating them? Is that what? Like, who's eating the cheeseburgers?
They're having to sit down. Jake Edwards is trying to convince them.
Like cheersing cheeseburgers, like their drinks. Okay, so then the European schedule. I mean, I probably give this 2 out of 5 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers. I think it's a cool idea. I think if they could figure out a creative way to make it happen, that is the dividing line, I think, between MLS and USL. I think Pro Rel is great, and I think it matters a lot to the fans who really care about soccer. But as soon as you start switching the schedule around, that's like there's no going back. It's just we're not MLS.
I don't know.
It's
like
tough.
It's 50-50 for me. And I also didn't even bring up my other issue with the idea of being the fact that like you're building an American soccer pyramid. The whole idea of that is to be able to go up between the leagues and like build your career. And I don't see how that works with 2 of your top leagues being at different times of the year. Like it seems weird to me. Like it feels like it doesn't flow up like it should if you're basing one league off of Europe and the other one's America.
I get that, but I also kind of feel like, MLS has sort of dug their heels in, and there aren't a lot of USL players that transition up to MLS anyway, as much as they like to say there are. you have players like Tyler Pasher, which, drink, who is playing, but like isn't a world beater in MLS. So there you go, Josh. You're welcome. Josh, how many Bob Lilly cheeseburgers do you give?
You said 2, right?
Oh, you said 2?
2.5. I said 50.
2.5. Okay, 2.5. Kev?
I don't know what Pro Rel has been on our collective lips longer than this, right?
It's been 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. From a purely kind of regulatory and bureaucratic perspective, intuitively, without thinking about it, this feels easier to do than Pro Rel.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
But so just being dumb and naive, I would say this probably has a better chance of happening if everyone wants it to happen.
I think that's the kicker. I don't think everybody wants it to happen.
Who knows? Yeah, I have no idea. But it just feels like an easier switch, right? There's no policies that need to be changed. There's no resource allocation that needs to happen. There's no stadium, improvements or anything that happen. You just, all right, we're starting on the state. So it feels like it might be easier to happen. It's such a new idea to me, and I just don't know where everyone stands on it. But if Jake Edwards is legitimately behind this, then it's probably easier to execute on it. So I'll still say 2.5 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers, but yeah.
All right, let's get through these last few because we're running short on time here. League's Cup was proposed, which again, this is something else that we've been talking about for years. But basically, it would be a cup tournament between the championship, League One, and potentially League Two. It sounds like some of the owners were a little bit resistant because with the U.S. Open Cup, the schedule is already packed as it is. So, while it would be cool, there's no like cash incentive at this point if you win the cup. So why are we adding more games to the schedule with the potential to get hurt while the U.S. Open Cup is still in play, while League is still going on? So what are the advantages of doing it? I think you could add you could get some sponsors, add a cash prize to it. Maybe people get a little bit more interested. But, Josh, what's your thoughts on an interconference tournament?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see a point in this unless it is to test the waters of Pro Rel. And if that's the case, then I don't think getting the best team in both leagues makes sense because that's like way far apart in quality level then. Like if you could somehow promote this as a cup where like the bottom 3 teams play the top 3 teams, like that would be interesting. But then it's just basically Pro Rel light and kind of just like a little test run, which that would help us more to know if Pro Rel could work. So yeah, personally, don't care. I think it seems like we already have the Open Cup. Why do we have a mini Open Cup?
Yeah, I think if we didn't have the Open Cup, then like this would be a cool thing to do. Kev, you're nodding. You agree with that?
Agreed. Move on.
Okay, but wait. So we all agree that we shouldn't do this. But what's the likelihood of this happening? Like, how many Bob Lilly cheeseburgers do you think that this is like in terms of is this going to happen or not?
If it's like a one-off game, if it's like literally like the top of both, and like it's not like a whole long drawn-out process, easy. Like, yeah, that's just one extra game. Basically, make it like a postseason match or something like that, a victory lap almost. So that would be easy. But if they want to do a whole full-out, like group stage tournament, long drawn-out, no. The too many games. It's congested as it is. Do not want it. Although there'll be no MLS teams, so we will have less teams in the leagues. So maybe we won't be as congested.
Yeah.
2. We'll say 2.
2 Bob Lilly cheeseburgers.
Yeah. Two BLCs. Yeah, sure.
It
was just too much language. I needed to shorten it.
Yeah.
BLC.
A few years back, we figured out what a Bob Lilly special was on pizza.
Oh yeah.
I think we need to figure out what is a Bob Lilly cheeseburger.
What was the Bob Lilly special on the pizza? I forget.
It was always 1-0, so it was half pep, half cheese.
Half plain, right. Yeah. So if you guys have thoughts, what is a Bob Lilly cheeseburger? Like what is on a Bob Lilly cheeseburger? Give us some good ideas. I know we've got some free stuff to give away, so maybe we'll give something away to the best one. It's gonna be
We're
fun.
just looking to give stuff away. Please give us.
I'm just saying this is fun. Anyway, okay.
Mike just turns around. I have a fidget spinner. I don't know. Like,
No. Literally, I got a closet full of like Mongol socks and hats and jerseys, and like we got to give some stuff away.
Right.
I think if Pro Rel happens, then the likelihood of this happening goes down.
Oh, yeah.
I think if Pro Rel doesn't happen, then you're going to have Jake Edwards pushing for this sooner rather than later. So I will give this one BLC, and that's under the idea that Pro Rel is going to happen. So there's that, and then MLS's D3 impact. So this was something that Josh already mentioned. All the MLS2 teams are leaving the USL, so it's literally going to be a completely separate thing. No more 2 teams. They're creating their own 3rd division league. So basically, it'll be in line with USL League 1 in theory. And some of the teams in USL are worried about the impact the MLS teams moving to a league that's at the same level and whether or not that could be problematic. My thoughts are not going to be problematic. You don't have anybody supporting the MLS2 teams as it is for the most part. And part of the reason why MLS is doing a D3 is because they don't want to put the investment in to have bigger stadiums for a D2. This is purely a developmental system for them. I just don't see it being as impactful as, who's going to go, you're going to have more people that go watch Atlanta United 2 or, Chattanooga. Like it's the home team that is a pro team that's not a 2 team is likely going to get more of a following. And I don't think it's a big issue. Is anybody else concerned about that?
No, I don't see MLS pumping money into this league. Like, yeah. I feel like they're going to just have it be developmental for the players. And I could even see them being like, closed doors. You know what I mean? Like they don't have to. Doesn't
have to be on TV. Nothing. Yeah.
Like I'm sure there's some rules, just like we were talking about with the Soccer Federation. There's going to be some rules where they have to adhere by. So maybe they do have to do something where they have to actually have fans and crap like that. But like they're going to put as little money into this as possible because this is not where they're going to make money. This is going to be a money sink, not a money gain. So like, why would they even try?
Yeah, agreed. Kev, do you disagree at all?
No.
Okay, so none of us are concerned. So in terms of BLCs, I don't think there are any BLCs. I think, it's just, I don't think this is going to be an issue. So guys, that was sort of all of the big news. And it sounds like there was even more that was discussed behind closed doors that they can't share with us. So lots and lots and lots of stuff that could be coming down the pike here in the next few years. And some of it we may know as soon as December if the league is going to vote on some of the stuff, which is really, really exciting. So stay tuned, man. And let us know what you think. First of all, let us know what you think a BLC actually is. And second of all, let us know what you think on all of these different topics, right? A lot of people in the comments during the show, we appreciate it, sharing thoughts on everything from ProRel to the change in schedule to everything that's been proposed. Let us know what you think. Let's continue the conversation because I think this is really good stuff. Guys, anything else that you want to talk about as it relates to all the USL news or the Hounds or anything like that?
I think we covered it.
Yeah, cool. No show next week. We are taking the week off. Josh, where are you going to be?
Ocean City with a bunch of friends. We rented an Airbnb with a pool, and we're just going to hang out for a week.
Nice. I will be in a tent somewhere in West Virginia, so I will not be anywhere near the computer. Kevin could do the show solo, which I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy, including Kevin. Yeah, so sure. We're just gonna take the week off. We will be back the following week. Make sure that you guys get down to Highmark on Saturday. Support the Hounds against Hartford. As we said, this is going to be one heck of a game. Otherwise, thanks guys for coming out. Let's wrap this one up. As always, head over to mongols.com, click on support the show to become a Patreon follower. Weekly reminder, as always, that Black Lives Matter. And as usual, thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier to MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Tired of the same old uniforms and cookie cutter templates from Nike and Adidas? Looking for a unique, completely custom kit for your youth club, Sunday league squad, adult, or even pro team? Icarus FC can help you create the kit of your dreams at an affordable price. Let them help you design your new custom kit today at icarusfc.com. Looking for more great USL news? head over to bgn.fm, where we've now got over 100 fans that are writing and podcasting about the beautiful game. Lots of great features that went up on the site this week, including the USL show doing a ton of coverage on all of this USL news. Go check that out and check them out at bgn.fm. Otherwise, as always, thanks, everybody. We will talk to you very, very soon.
Cheers.